How to use Resco Mobility and Microsoft Dynamics to configure timesheets for mobile workers. In this video, I'm going to show you a very simple timesheet solution based on Resco technology. It's a no-code solution, which means that no coding, no programming was involved when building this solution. Only a standard customization and configuration tools have been used. The solution consists of two parts. The mobile part of the solution is covered by Resco technology. The back office part of the solution is built on the Microsoft platform. In this solution, a couple of new custom tables have been created specifically for this purpose. The first and probably the most important one is called Timesheet. It has a very simple life cycle. Each timesheet needs to be created in the back office at first by the timesheet manager. Then it must be submitted in the mobile application by the mobile user. And as soon as everything is done correctly, then again, it must be approved in the back office by the timesheet manager. Each timesheet consists of multiple timesheet entries, and each timesheet entry needs to be approved by the timesheet manager in the back office. Each timesheet entry is also assigned to a specific project, and each project is assigned to a specific project category. There is also a couple of standard system tables being used in this solution. The first one is user table or employee, and the second one is account table. We'll call it the customer table in our solution. The demo consists of 4 parts. In the first part, I'm going to show you the back office interface. So, as a timesheet manager, I'm going to manage timesheets and the projects. For the purpose of this demo, let's say we are a company called Inspections Enterprises. We do different types of inspections, assessments, and compliance checklists for our customers. As a timesheet manager, I have access to the back office system, which is Microsoft Dynamics 365. And I'm using my web browser in order to access this back office system and all the timesheets. So let me open the model-driven app called Resco Timesheets. By default, you can see there is a list of all the timesheets for the current week. You can see there a name of the timesheet, the owner, start and end date, and status reason, which is open for all the timesheets. Also, there is information about the fulfillment of the weekly plan and information who and when approved the timesheet. As a timesheet manager, I can also change the default view. For example, if I want to see last week's timesheets, I can simply switch to the different view. And you can see these timesheets already have different statuses. So some of them are already approved, some of them are still open, and one of them is submitted. Also, the weekly plan fulfilled column is nice for an audit. Let's switch the view to see all the timesheets created for the next week. Right now, there is no timesheet scheduled for the next week, so I have 2 options there. I can create a new timesheet for each employee or each team member individually by using the New button. But this might be a quite time-consuming task, so I'm not going to do this way. In a few moments, I will show you how it is possible to do them for all selected employees at once. For now, let's go back to the default view, which is the current week's timesheet view. And let's open a timesheet belonging to David Clark. On the left, you can see all the specific details, while in the center, you can see the entries that David Clark has entered and submitted. You can see all of them are still open, billable, and have specific duration. As a timesheet manager, I can click on the specific timesheet to see all the necessary detail. Right now, as a timesheet manager, I'm not allowed to change these details. Everything is read-only, as you can see. There's the Employee Notes text field, which is also read-only and can be edited only by the mobile user. but as a manager, I can enter some notes into the Manager Notes field. Let's go back to the timesheet view and back to the list of timesheets. We can switch to the Project section where we can see the list of all active projects. You can see there a name of a project, project number, specific category, information whether the project is billable or not, name of a customer, start and end date of the project, expiration status, and project manager name. Let's now open one of the projects to see project details, where it's possible to modify most of the information. In the center, you can see all the timesheet entries that mobile users submitted over time. These are all associated with this specific project. Let's go back to the list of projects and let's switch to the Customers section. So here you can see all the active customers. If I click on one of the customers, I can again see specific details on the left and the active project associated with the selected customer. So right now, we have 2 active projects for the selected customer. Let's switch to the Employees table, which is showing a list of all team members. We can see there a full name, job title, phone number, business unit, and project manager name. To create new timesheets for all users, I have to select all the users in the list and then click on the Flow button in the top panel. And there is the Create Timesheet Power Automate flow. The setup is simple. At first, I need to set up start and end dates for this timesheet. Let's say I want to create timesheets for the next week, which is starting on Monday, December 5th and ending on Friday, December 9th. The final step is to set the weekly plan. It's going to be a standard work week with 40 hours. Now, let's hit the Run Flow button and the Done button afterwards. We can go back to the Timesheet section now and change the view to the next week's timesheets, which was previously empty. You can see that new timesheets have been automatically created for the selected users. The last section on the left menu is the Project Categories section, and this is a place where you can define your own project categories and define whether it's a billable or non-billable project category. Now let's move to the next part of the demo and see how the mobile app looks from the mobile user perspective. Let's say I'm not a timesheet manager anymore. I'm a mobile user named David, and I'm using my mobile device, in this case, an iPad. And on this device, I have the mobile CRM application installed and will now open it. As you can see, this is pretty much a standard inspections app, enhanced with the timesheet functionality. I'm not going to explain these first sections as they are inspections related and will focus on the timesheet functionality. There, we have several different options and possibilities that the mobile user has for working with timesheets. The first of them is the New Entry button, on which I will click now. There, I can simply fill out a new timesheet entry. You can see there are 2 required fields, indicated by the red label color. Let me select the timesheet from a list of all open timesheets. In this case, I'm going to solve the first one. As for the project, I want to select Fabricam Safety Assessment. Now I can either manually set the start and end times, or I can click the All Day button to set the activity for the whole 8 hours. You can see the duration of activity is automatically set to 8 hours. All I need to do now is to hit the Save button in the top right corner. The next section is called Current Week, and it shows all the timesheet entries for the current week in a handy calendar view. You can see that on Monday, I had 3 different inspections for 3 different customers. On Tuesday, I had one large fire inspection for Adventure Works, and today I've just reported timesheet entry for a company called Fabricam. Let's move to the next section, which is called Open, and this section displays all the timesheets that are currently open. We have two timesheets there. The first one is for the current week, and the second one is for the next week. Let's open the first one to see the detailed information of the timesheet. The fields are read-only again, so as a mobile user, I'm not able to modify the start or end date of the timesheet or the results. But as a user, I can add a new timesheet entry by using the plus button. Again, I need to select the project there. Let's say I want to choose the Field Service Training Project. But as you can see, there's an error which states that the project has already ended, so we need to select a different one. So let's select the Litware Site Inspection Project. It looks good, so I can choose a start date now. Let's say it started on Thursday, and the activity took 4 hours to complete. Again, if everything is correct, I will hit the Save button, and I'm back in the timesheet form. As you can see, the total hours field will be automatically updated, so I can see how many hours I have already reported for selected timesheets. I will report one more. Let's say it took me 4 hours to complete the inspection for Adventure Works. As you can see right now, the total hours are at 32 hours, but that's still not enough because the weekly plan is 40 hours. Another option I have to quickly create the timesheet entry is to use what we call the clone button. So, if I want to report the same activity that has already been reported, I can simply slide the timesheet to the left. The app will automatically clone the existing timesheet entry, and I can edit the activity duration there for 8 hours. Afterwards, you can see that my weekly plan is fulfilled and marked green. And also, now I can use the Submit button to submit the timesheets for manager's approval. I will hit the Submit button right here and confirm my action in the pop-up notification. There, I get a confirmation that the timesheet has been submitted and I should sync the application now, as I'm still working offline. I'm going to hit the Sync button and synchronize with the Dynamics 365 server. The synchronization is completed, so I can go to the Open Timesheets view. Right now, you can see there is only one timesheet, and that's the timesheet for next week. The timesheet for the current week is already submitted, so I will find it there. You can see it here, so I will open it. All the fields are read-only again, and I am not able to add any more entries there right now. These are all the entries that I have recorded previously, with the red color signaling they are still open and not approved by the manager. If I open any of these entries, again, they are read-only and I'm not allowed to perform any changes. Let's check the last section of the timesheets panel, and that's where I can see approved timesheets. I can select one of the timesheets and see every field is read-only and I'm not allowed to do any changes. Right here, you can see all the entries are approved, indicated by the green square. In the third part of the demo, I'm going to be a timesheet manager again, and I'll go back to the Backoffice system in Dynamics 365 to show you what the approving process looks like. Back in Dynamics 365, I can see the list of all timesheets for the current week, and you can see that David Clark's timesheet has already been submitted. There is also visual information that the weekly plan has been fulfilled but is still not approved. So, as a timesheet manager, I need to open the timesheet, but is still not approved. So, and right there, I can see a new results section with all the details about total hours reported, overtime hours, and how many of those total hours are billable. And again, in the center, I can see all the timesheet entries associated with this submitted timesheet belonging to David. So, as a timesheet manager, I need to check all these activities and entries now to make sure everything is okay from my perspective. If yes, then I can easily approve timesheets either individually or with a selection tool. When finished with selection, I can hit the Approve button right there. And I can close the timesheet entries as approved. It's very easy and fast, and you can see the color for the approved activities changes to green. But there is one activity still open, so I can click on it and add some notes right here if I have some questions. Afterwards, I can save it and close. What I need to do next is to change the status reason of the timesheet from submitted back to open. As soon as I hit the Save button, the mobile user, David, will be automatically notified that this timesheet has not been approved and he needs to perform some changes in order to make the timesheet approvable. Back as a mobile user, David, with my iPad device, I can see that my submitted timesheet has not been approved by the timesheet manager in my notifications. I can click on it, and the app will ask if I want to synchronize it with the server as I'm still working in offline mode. To get the fresh data, I will hit the Sync button. After the synchronization, I can see that almost all of the timesheet entries were approved except for the one with the red square. I can open this timesheet to see the question from the timesheet manager, and I can add my own notes and explanation there. To see the question from the timesheet manager, I can either save or cancel the activity. But for this time, I will save it and resubmit the whole timesheet again with the Submit button in the top right corner. Again, the app will ask if I really want to submit the timesheet, so I select Yes and initiate the synchronization of the app with the server. And that's it. I am back in Dynamics 365 as a timesheet manager, and I can see that David Clark has resubmitted his timesheet for the current week. I'm going to check his response regarding this specific entry. I can see some notes from David here with explanation why he reported this timesheet, and if I'm happy with the explanation, I can approve the timesheet. I can see now that all of the timesheet entries within the selected timesheet were approved, so I can approve it, which will send an automatic push notification to David's mobile device. Then I can close this timesheet and check other timesheets on the list. You can see there the information about when and by who the timesheet has been approved. And back again to mobile user David, who will be automatically notified about the approval of his timesheet by a manager. When I sync the application, you can see it updated and that all the timesheets are approved and marked green. At the beginning of this video, I said that this simple timesheet solution is a no-code solution, so there was no coding or programming needed in customization and configuration. In the last part of this demo, I would like to show you a couple of functionalities that we have added to this solution that significantly improve the user experience. The first functionality is related to view formatting, or let's say color coding. As you can remember, the timesheet form contains additional information and also a list of all associated timesheet entries, which are color coded. Thanks to this, mobile users can instantly see whether entries are approved or open based on the color of the small square. How can this be customized in Woodford? This is the Woodford customization tool where I will open the corresponding mobile project. In the left panel, let's scroll down to find the Timesheet Entry entity. There, I can see 3 different components from which I need to open a public view, called All Entries. This is how the standard view looks. What's important is that it contains 3 different rows, each for a specific status reason. One is for open, one is for closed, and one is for canceled status reason. Each has a different image color. What we have to do now is to define the business logic by using a row script. So, let's click on the row script button and take a look at very simple row script. Basically, we need to find the status code of this timesheet record first, and based on this, we can define a corresponding role to be displayed. So, if the status code is open or scheduled, then the application will show the open row. If the status code is approved, then the close row will be displayed. And finally, if the status code of this entry is canceled, then the canceled row will be displayed. Another handy feature is the All Day button on the timesheet entry form. If you remember, during a new timesheet entry, mobile users have to specify the start and end time and the duration of the activity. But if there's a situation that the mobile user is working all day on the project, there's no need to enter this information. But it's better to simply click on the All Day button and automatically pre-fill the fields. So, the start time is the current date at 9 a.m. and the end time is the current date at 5 p.m. How can this be set in Woodford? In the Woodford customization tool, let's open the corresponding mobile project called Inspections. In the left menu, let's find the Timesheet Entry entity again and open the default form. There, we can see the definition of the form with the All Day button. All we need to do is add the button from the top panel and then define the business logic. That means to set up what should happen when mobile users click on the All Day button. We can define business logic with the button click button. It's very simple. First, we need to check whether the user clicked on the All Day button. If yes, then there are 3 steps. The first step is to set the start date field to the current day. However, this would mean midnight, so we need to add 9 hours to the default view in the second step. And the last step is to set up the duration field to 8 hours, which is 480 minutes. That's it. Another small feature improving the lives of mobile users is the clone button on the timesheet entries view. So, a mobile user working every day on the same project can simply clone existing entries to create new timesheet entries. Let's have a look at how it's done in Woodford. In the Woodford customization tool, let's open Inspections mobile project and scroll down to find the Timesheet Entry entity. Now, let's open the view called All Entries. In order to add a new custom button to this view, you need to click on the buttons first and then hit New Command. There is the Custom Clone button, and now we need to add custom business logic, available via this button. There you can see a rule for cloning the existing timesheet entry report. In the first step, we check whether the mobile user clicked on the button. If yes, then we need to check the status of the parent timesheet via a variable called var timesheet. We need to load the parent timesheet into this variable, and if done correctly and the status is open, then it is possible to perform cloning. In the next step, we create a new variable called new entry. As you can see, this is a new instance of the timesheet entry entity. And in the next steps, we need to assign the field values from the existing report to a newly created timesheet entry. So information whether it's billable or not, reference to the corresponding timesheet, information about the owner, information about the project, and information about the start and end time. Of course, there we need to add one day as we want to schedule it for the next day compared to the initial timesheet. Also, the duration is set and entry name is copied from the old timesheet to the new one. The final step is to open the newly created timesheet entry record. Every timesheet entry contains the start and end time, so why don't display them in the calendar view, right? And even more so if it's possible to define color coding in your calendar so all the approved timesheets are displayed in green color and all the open time entries are shown in red. This is how it's done in Woodford. In the Woodford customization tool, let's open the Inspections mobile project. First, we need to check if the calendar view is correctly defined. So, let's search for the timesheet entry entity. Let's open the All Entries Calendar view, where we need to check whether the date fields are correctly defined. So, hit the Date Fields button in the top panel. In our case, both of the fields are correctly defined, so this view can be used in the Calendar component. Let's switch to the Calendar section. Basically, now you can create a new custom calendar using this button. As I already have the current timesheet calendar created right here, let me open it and take a look at the definition of this calendar, where you can easily add a new entity. In this case, I have added Entry Entity into this calendar. There you can define which view should be visible, and also you can define rules where we will switch for color coding. There we will hit Added Rule button and see simple steps. Based on the status, if it's approved, the color of this timesheet entry in the calendar will be green. Otherwise, if the status is open or scheduled, then the color will be red. When a mobile user wants to submit a timesheet, they need to hit the Submit button and proceed through this confirmation section that will appear on the screen with a text and two options, yes or no. And this is done by using the functionality we call Message Box. Let me show you how it's configured in Woodford. In the Woodford customization tool, let's open the Inspections project. Scroll down and find the Timesheet entity. Open the default form because the message box is defined on this form. And in order to see the definition of the message box, we have to hit the On Execute button. This is what it looks like. In the first step, we need to check whether the mobile user clicked on the Submit button. If yes, then we need to check the status of the timesheet. If it's open, then it is necessary to create this message box component. It's not very intuitive, but it works well. So first of all, let's create a new string list variable and add 3 steps for 3 buttons: yes, no, and cancel. This is the most important step. Let's add a new integer variable with the message box method and type in the question you need to ask the user. If the mobile user selects the first option, so the option is yes, we want to change the status of the timesheet to submitted. We can do that in the background. First, we need to define another variable called timesheet. We need to load this variable with the corresponding timesheet record. Then we can assign the total hours, total overtime hours, and total billable hours from shared variables to the corresponding fields. Then we have to change the status code to submitted. And finally, there's a step where it is necessary to save all the changes in the background. The last step is that we want to show a message to the user that the timesheet has been submitted, and the user should synchronize the application. So this is how the message box and the corresponding business logic is defined in Woodford. In Resco, it is also possible to calculate the aggregate values of the specific fields. In Dynamics, this functionality is called the rollup fields. And for example, on the timesheet form, there's the results section, which consists of 3 fields: total hours, total overtime hours, and total billable hours. The values of these fields are automatically calculated in the background using the rules based on the values from the associated timesheet entries, listed here in this entries section. So let's see how the so-called roll-up fields are defined in Woodford. Open the Inspections mobile project again and find Timesheet Entity in the left menu. Here it is, and let's open the form called Default. Now the basic idea is that if there's a new timesheet entry, then some specific onChange rule should be executed. So before we go to the onChange rule, let's make sure that this associated tab is correctly defined. Hit the Properties button and go to the Properties tab. The checkbox Trigger onChange Event has to be checked. As soon as it's checked, any change in the associated data or associated timesheet entries will trigger the onChange event. So let's see how the onChange rule is defined. Let me click on the onChange button. This is what it looks like. First, we need to make sure that we check whether there is any change in the associated app. So if there is any child record, timesheet entry record, or change record. If yes, then the next step is to do the calculation. So that's why there is a load aggregate function used here. So we want to do the calculation on the child record. We want to set the specific records from these entities, so we have to define fetch XML filter. It's very simple. We have to select all the timesheet entries that are associated with this specific timesheet, and also the status reason is not canceled, so it's either opened or approved. We have the correct records from the timesheet entry entity, and then we need to select the corresponding field from the list. In this case, it's scheduled duration minutes. And lastly, we have to select the correct aggregate function. In this case, I will select sum function. Because this calculation or roll-up calculation is doing the calculation in minutes, in the next step we have to convert this number into hours. So let's divide it by 60, and that's it. This is how the simple calculation, the load, aggregate, or roll-up field calculation can be done using the rules in the Woodford customization tool.